Good afternoon, Council. Good to see you.
Likewise.
And oh, I think this is everybody. Councillor Lumley can't make it. He's in Squamish. He'll be back tomorrow, though.
No. Right now it's showing that. But it's oh. Oh, I see. So cancer clones and Zoom and oh, I get it. Okay. But no, I don't want to make it. Okay.
Everybody ready? Are we live or ready to go live?
You are live on YouTube already.
Okay. I will call this meeting to order again, then, of the Town of Gibsons. Special meeting of council for May 23rd, 2023, 3:00 p.m. I'd first like to acknowledge that we're gathering here on the traditional territories of the Squamish Nation. And I also want to acknowledge that it's Councillor Kroll's birthday today. Councillor Kroll, happy birthday. Sorry, I can't wish you happy birthday in person, but this will have to do. Calling the meeting to order. First, we need to approve the agenda. See Councillor Kroll moving it, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? That motion carries. And first we have an administration report. Really overall, this meeting should be quite short. It's the main reason for it was really to award the contract or consider the awarding of the contract for White Tower Park. And we've got a couple of routine finance items also added that need to be done in short order. So the first one is item 3.1, report from the Director of Finance about authorized signatories for the town of Gibsons. And it seems pretty straightforward here. Lorraine, do you want to just give us a quick explanation of why we're needing to do this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And so this report is, it's really about updating the council's existing signing authorities to streamline the resolution wording from the previous resolution, clarifying each category, and also providing a broader definition that's included in each category. It doesn't propose any changes to the required signers for each category, and it continues to ensure that strong internal controls are in place. And these are relating to finance transactions. And so just really quickly, there's 3 areas. Disbursements, the revision provides for less restrictive wording on what types of disbursements are applicable. And really this shifts to providing examples as opposed to a specific list. That way we don't inadvertently leave something out that is an option under the valid transaction. The transfers in and out, the changes there just provides broader wording to catch up to our the council's investment policy as well as what's authorized in the community charter. And then the Municipal Finance Authority Lending Program, that used to be under the disbursement section, but really we also draw funds to draw debt funding. So I wanted to pull it out and make a separate category to reflect that. So it's really just a housekeeping, cleaning up with a bit broader definitions, same level of control though. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? I think it's all self-explanatory. Is anyone ready to move the recommendations? Councillor Thompson, seconded Councillor Kroll. Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion carries. And we are on to item 3.2, which is also from the Director of Finance. Municipal security issuing resolution, loan authorization bylaw number 1264, 2019 capital improvement financing bylaw. We've got a recommendation here as well. Could you give a brief introduction to this too?
Yes.
Director of Finance?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And so this report, those 2 resolutions, they provide the authority to lock in the temporary debt into a long-term debt issue. And so this temporary debt relates to the Proust Road lift station upgrade that was held couple years ago. And the MFA, the town gets debt through MFA, and there's only 2 issues a year that you can lock in long-term, fall and spring. We did draw debt and we're paying a bit of a premium to have temporary debt, and this will allow us to lock it in this fall. I've been waiting a bit because the debt rates have been going up quite significantly over this last year. I'm waiting for them to calm down, and they have leveled off, and the anticipation is that by the fall they'll be on their way down. So I thought it would be a really good time to take advantage of the falling rates. And so this would be effective in the September issue of MFA. And so we need enough lead time though to get this MSIR to the regional district so they can include us in the fall borrowing issue. And current rates right now, the current long-term rate is 4.1. The indicative rate for the fall is 3.83. So that's why I'm suggesting we time it there. And if for some reason things go sideways between now and August, there's an option to pull back and then just hold on to temporary for a bit longer. But at this point, I think it's worth locking it in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions, Council? I just want to make sure I can see everybody here. Okay. Are we prepared to move this recommendation then? Moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion? This motion carries too. Now we're on to 3.3, Director of Infrastructure Services on the White Tower Park contract award.
Thank you, Mayor White.
I think that report is in our package, pages 11 to 15. But I'll just ask if the director wants to introduce it at all.
Sure thing. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor White. Fairly self-explanatory. The tender closed with 2 bids, which were compliant with all the requirements of the tender. And the recommendation is to award the contract to Macon Construction, being the low bidder, for a value of $1.9 million. This does exceed their bid price. The rationale for the additional funding being the inherent uncertainty with the nature of the construction project leads to there being a likelihood that there could be some additional costs for disposal of unsuitable material. There's been some anecdotal evidence that there perhaps used to be a dump site, so there's some uncertainty about the quality of the material below grade. Due to the fact that the recommended value exceeds the project budget, there is also a requirement for recommendation for committing the funds from another source. And currently the recommendation is the Growing Communities Fund. It has been brought to my attention that there could potentially be some issue with the grant provider. They provided there's about $850,000 of grant funding to fund the White Tower project. Potentially that grant provider may not allow for what's considered grant stacking, so another grant applied on top of it to fund that project. But we would just need clarification from that grant provider if the Growing Communities Fund would be considered a grant in that sense, and whether there would be potential issues with that. And that's for myself and the Director of Finance, I believe, to get clarification from the grant provider. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Mayor and Council for questions.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's really a grant. It was more of just additional funding that was doled out all over the province. So I hope they don't. The other grant, the grant provider doesn't decide to consider it a grant, because really it isn't. Anyway, I'll leave that to staff to clarify with them. Any questions from council? Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you, Mayor. I was just curious, what's the consequence if we approve just the 12% contingency and it goes a little higher instead of approving the extra, the 20%? Is it a delay on the project, or?
Through you as mayor, the consequence would be a delay, and there would be the potential for delay claim from the contractor. So generally, it's more cost effective to approve more funding than is necessarily maybe required, to avoid the potential delays of having 4 excavators sitting on site not working for a couple of weeks while we potentially wait for that approval to go through. That's kind of the rationale behind asking for the contingency up front.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any kind of relationship between the stormwater management involved in this project and the more recent grant we received for kind of lower down in the Charmin Ravine system?
Thank you for the question. There certainly are interconnected in the sense that they're both projects are approaching our stormwater management through a kind of naturalized stormwater system lens. There's not necessarily direct overlap between the scope of the 2 projects, but the project extent for the more recent grant project, which which received the award here a month ago or so, does kind of run up the water course of Sharman Creek, which does then butt up against the extent of the White Tower Pond project. If that addresses your question.
Okay, yeah. One other question I had is, I inquired about this, I think, during the time that this contract, or the RFP was being put together. And I know it's due to changes in our procurement policy that were just made recently in the fall. And I understand we're still integrating them, but I'm wondering if this RFP included social procurement principles.
Thank you, for the question. So this was approached as essentially as a directed price-based tender. And through that process, there's limited opportunities for other criteria upon which to evaluate a contractor. That sustainable social procurement policy piece is certainly front of mind. And as infrastructure proceeds with work in the future for whether it be consulting or construction work, we certainly will build that into it where we're approaching projects from a more of a RFP, like a request for proposal, rather than a strictly price-based evaluation.
Thank you. I'm taking some photos of my screen a bit. I guess I could just do screenshots, but just to show what I'm seeing for later tweaking of the system. Right now, I'm seeing partially my empty seat, which is strange, but I think we can just another piece of tweaking the system as we go. So, are there any other questions from council? Are we ready to move this recommendation then? I see Councillor Kroll, the motion, seconded Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? Is there something there?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, all those in favor? That motion carries. We do understand that second part of the motion is contingent upon just confirming that that opportunity is available to us. Council's looking into. So our next regular meeting of council is Tuesday, June 6th at 7 p.m. We do have just recently announced another special meeting of council for tomorrow at 3 p.m., which will be an in-camera agenda. Until then, we need to adjourn this meeting. Seeing moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.